Unscripted, unshackled, uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for more mature audiences only.
It's Miguel and Holly, Uncensored.
Welcome to Miguel and Holly Uncensored. It's a podcast that we do off the air Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You can always see it live on the Miguel and Holly Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. Also, the audio is posted usually around noon. But make sure, if you're in the Platypus Posse and you spend the time watching or listening, that you leave us a rating. We're trying to get there to 500 reviews. And then once we do, someone's going to get $50. All right. I'm trying to see if I've read this review. You remember a review about someone listening for a long time from like high school?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the last one. Okay, perfect. All right, just making sure. Want to keep track and give you all the credit where it's due for the people that are writing reviews. We greatly appreciate it.
I know. They're great too. Like, whew, thank you.
Before I get into the topic I want to talk about, how's everybody feeling today?
Feeling pretty good, I guess.
A little bit better than yesterday.
Mm.
Yep.
Good.
Why?
I was just wondering before I got into everything.
I get my cast off today. I'm excited about that.
You gonna smell it?
Yeah.
I feel like I was gonna be in the doctor's office like.
Well, I'm also going to be a little annoying because I'm going to be like, can I film this on TikTok while you're doing it? Can you stop? If I need you to stop, can I just?
You won't be the first.
Well, but I'm probably the most grown. Like, let's be honest. Like, I'm the oldest person being like, can I just get a TikTok? And they're going to be like, ma'am,
please.
And I have to film it with like my front facing camera, not my rear facing camera, because this part of the camera is cracked.
They're gonna be like, girl, if you don't get out of here.
They're gonna be like, you know what? No, actually, just we're gonna saw it off and send you on your way. Can you just?
If you tag their office, maybe they will.
Yeah.
Well, because I feel like I did see a video of somebody getting a saw on their.
I know. I've seen that.
That was fascinating to me. I sat and watched the whole thing. So
how do they know not to go deep?
I don't know. I'm nervous. Like, I'm very
Scary.
nervous that I'm about to get like, circular sawed through my bones that I just healed. But I'm guessing like once they see the white underneath,
right,
they stop.
And it's something they do all the time. So it's not like they're like, oh, this is our experimental saw machine. They're like,
they sent one of their children in there to be like, hey, go do this. So anyway, that'll
like,
be
what would you do if they were like, hey, so this is Dr. Brad. This is his first day out of residency.
He's never done this before, even though he's graduated.
Do you feel comfortable, Holly?
I'd be like, no, I sure don't.
Okay. What if, they get this, like, obviously a professional to do it. They do the saw, whatever, and they bust it open, and they're like, ew, and they're like pointing at you, and they're be like, it smells. Oh my God. What would you do?
I would be so mortified. I would probably cry.
Fun fact, Holly did cry one time when she was pregnant.
Oh
no.
And this is
like multiple times. Like, I cried nearly daily while I was pregnant. Just so we're clear.
But this was like sort of on brand with that. We had a consequence where Mandy had to lick whipped cream off of your underarms.
Yes, that actually, I don't think I was pregnant anymore. I think that was my postpartum phase, which makes even more sense if you think about it.
Right. And so like, it's supposed to be like funny. And like, obviously when we do those things, like it is gross. And so we're like, and it's not specifically towards you, but in that moment, Holly's emotions took over and Holly started crying as Mandy's licking the whipped cream off of her underarms. And so then like Mandy's like, and Holly's like, oh my God.
Mandy's like, this is so gross. And I'm just like, I'm a person with feelings. Like, it was.
And
is
then
there a video?
I'm sure there's somewhere.
Of course. I think it actually recently maybe came up in Facebook somewhere.
It was such a chaotic moment. I was just like,
so chaotic. Mandy's nearly crying because she's so grossed out. I am crying because she's grossed out about my armpit, which it is gross. But I'm also like, that's my, like, stop being that way about my armpit. Like, it's
That's always a funny, awkward thing with those things because I never know how it's gonna hit Holly in that moment where like we've talked about it before and it's like, oh, this is gonna be really funny or listeners are gonna love this. And then that moment, if the emotions hit Holly wrong, and then it's like
I can't help it. I cannot.
And then I'm just let the moment ride. Just
I know
let it ride.
this bitch is always. And then what happens is he lets it be silent for a second, and then he goes. Miguel will like kind of lean in and go. Holly, tell us why you're crying.
With the mics on.
What
bitch.
are you? Yeah, right in the mic.
Why are you crying?
What are you feeling right now?
No, the funeral music.
What's making you feel this way? Like Miguel gets leaned in and like exploits it, like digs deep. What's making you feel this way? And I'm just like, God, like the problem is I can't make myself start crying if I'm not feeling it. And I also can't stop that train if it's coming down the tear ducts. I just can't. Like I'm just that way. So anyway.
I love it. When those moments happen, I'm just like.
If it's coming, there's I can't stop it. So it's just going to happen.
We're here. We're in it.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to talk about. I've seen this a couple of times and I was like, what is this thing? What are people talking about? What is a Canon event? Okay.
Oh my God, Miguel! I just saw this on TikTok.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And I meant to look it up because I'm like, I am a pretty smart individual. I don't quite grasp the context here.
I thought it had to do with cartoons.
No.
No.
So I did some research because I saw it too, and I was like, "What does that exactly? Does that mean?"
It's a trend right now, like it's a filter or something, or like.
So it's like a filter and a trend where they're saying the newest slang term TikTokers are obsessing over and why they're sharing their most embarrassing character building moments. The latest slang term refers to an event in someone's life that may be difficult, painful, or cringeworthy, but is imperative to their personal development. According to TikTokers, canon events cannot be avoided. And if it is, terrible things can occur. The term comes from the recent Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse movie, in which it was a central theme. So here is a TikTok that talks a little bit more about it. Let me share this. And obviously, if you're watching, please give us a thumbs up or down if you can hear it or not.
What your canon event is. By the way, a canon event is an event that's going to happen that you cannot change. Mine is, this filter knows about my old videos somehow. Luckily for me, that event is already passed, though. At least we can hope.
So it's an event in your life that is destined to happen. Oh my God, this is freaking me out then. Even worse. I didn't. Okay.
Sorry. Let me.
Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead. I was going to stop.
No, I was trying to see if it'll let
I'm
me.
Full screen it?
Yeah, but it won't let me because it opens up a whole nother screen.
Oh.
That doesn't pop up, but hold on.
Yeah.
Let me do this. Sorry, y'all. I feel like the people that watch, you all get like the rough version of this where we're just like figuring out this technology part. Let me take this out. Stop.
Yeah, it's probably a bit of a shit show.
Well, now this makes sense because non-canon, the first time I've ever heard this a long time ago, Dragon Ball GT, it's a non-canon show, which means it never happened. Canon does happen.
I thought it was like when you're talking about canon, you're talking about like something that's part of, like if you talk about the Marvel canon, it's just something in the history of.
Right.
But I didn't realize that the more nuanced definition would be it's a sort of destiny life event that happened to you or that is going to happen to you that you cannot avoid. Almost like why you're here on Earth, like your karmic cause.
So this one says, when I see the never been kissed innocent girl start talking to the boy who every girl has a story about, I cannot interfere this canon event. So basically what they're saying is these things that you know that are just really bad, but you can't avoid them. Like
otherwise
to me,
you wouldn't be the person you are.
Right. So I think about like the one where like a lot of girls talk about like the first time you get your period, where it's like the most awkward, or like the first time someone explains it to you, but it's like you wouldn't have that story, and like maybe things would be different if it happened in a different way, or if
Right.
like your mom sat down and like talked to you about it beforehand or whatever. So just anything like that in your life that should not be avoided, but it was tragic when it happened.
Does it have to be tragic?
Well, when I say tragic, I mean like traumatizing, or it doesn't necessarily always have to be like you were abused, but like
something that you just is inescapable.
I kind of
Like you have to go
understand.
through it. You have to go through it in order to learn the lessons.
Yes.
Are we all sharing each one? I don't know.
Did you already do this? Because I already did this, and I cannot wait to tell you what it said mine was. But I'm gonna do it again and probably give me a different answer. I don't know.
So it says, though the trend might deal with embarrassing subject matter, the spirit behind canon events is quite wholesome. TikTok has made it apparent that everyone has experienced cringe-worthy and character-building moments in their lifetimes, and moving through them is how we mature.
Character building.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Kelvin?
Well, I kind of knew that my family dynamic was going to change the minute that my dad knew that I was queer. And I had
talk to the microphone.
So sorry.
I'm
so sorry.
You're like backed up. I was like, bitch, I can't hear you.
I'm so sorry.
I'm like, are you a radio professional?
Because I was breathing and I didn't want to go. So I was like, let me breathe from over here. I'm sorry. Anyways, I knew that my life, or at least my family dynamic, was going to change the minute that I moved out with my fiance Oscar back in November 2020, because I knew that my dad kept asking, "Well, who are you moving in with? Who are you moving in with?" And I knew the minute that I told him it's going to be with my boyfriend that he had not known I dated for 2 years secretly from them, even though the rest of my friends and cool family members like my cousins knew. And I knew that that was going to change a lot of dynamics because he had already stopped having a relationship with my sister way before me when she came out. And so I knew it. And so I just kind of like accepted that while I was living with them, but I also was taking advantage. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't paying rent. So I think that's why I kind of decided to do that. But I guess that would be my canon event. I was like, all right, I know some things are going to change. I'm probably not going to have a relationship with my dad anymore. How am I going to hang out with my mom if she still accepts me, et cetera, et cetera. And so that was a really pivotal change in my life that happened back in late 2020. So, yeah.
What's interesting is that you talk about this like you sort of chose it, though. Do you like you knew it was happening at the moment that it happened? Do a lot of people?
I don't think so. I think when I would tell people this story, like, I know I'm not going to have this relationship with my dad, I just know it. A lot of people would tell me, well, you don't know. Maybe you're going to be the change. Maybe he's going to change with you. And maybe like you'll be able to start building a relationship. And I was like, no, I know. I know that it's going to be over.
Right.
I just knew it. And so, and it's not like a poor me, I'm so sorry, like sad story. I mean, it is sad, don't get me wrong, but I had prepared for it for so long that when it did happen, of course it was sad. It was like the day that I moved, and it was really hard because I was around all my friends and they were helping me move. But it's what drove me to go to therapy because I knew that there was a life change. And so I was kind of prepared for it. So I didn't know it was going to happen. I knew that there wasn't going to be a happy ending or we were going to work towards it. We're going to be better after it. So I knew that that was going to define me and change me. And, you know, because I lived 27 years with a dad and now I don't have one. And that's a pretty big life change. So,
yeah, because your life would be totally different if you didn't make that decision. If you would have decided to not tell the truth and to just continue living with your parents and living in the closet and living in secret, your life would be totally different.
Yeah.
So you had to go through that character building moment of facing the truth and being honest to be where you are now. So that was your canon event, having that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it making more sense to you, Holly? You look confused still.
No, I'm sorry. I was in my own head. I stopped listening when Miguel started talking. I'm so sorry.
Oh, thank you.
I apologize. No, I fully absorbed Kelvin's story,
to my
and then
life.
Miguel did a recap, and I was like, I don't need to listen to the recap because I'm thinking about my own canon event. So I'm sorry.
Because you were looking
about
confused,
that.
and I was like,
Nope, not confused. I was just thinking about my own shit.
She was like, which trauma?
Gotcha.
And that's what I was about to say. Like, aren't all kind of major life events canon events? Like, they're all there. And I suppose that would be one of my follow-up questions as to is there just one, or are any defining moments of our lives considered to be canon events, which would be canon?
I think
life's canon.
Any of them. I mean, I think
Plural.
the ones on TikTok of these canon events are sort of like the relatable ones. Like, just as I was scrolling through another article about it real quick, they were talking about when you see someone asking out, like a young friend asking or being obsessed over the bad boy, and you know that they shouldn't do it, but they have to do it to get
That's
through
like
it.
a parent, like right when your kid wants to date the person that you know is not right, but you're like, I really hope that they turn this around quickly. Like, just go through. You know what I mean?
Go through, get through it. So I would say, like, for me, mine would be the last guy that I talked to right before Abe, where it was my last hoorah of my desperate self, where like there was every sign that I was doing the most, and if I could go back, I'd be like, bitch, oh my God, why are you texting them, the next morning? Did you have fun? Oh my God, I can't wait to do it again. And the person on the other end is like, ooh, God.
Like, just give it a minute to breathe. But
then they slowly stopped talking to me that week. And then I saw them at that pool party where they completely ignored me. And then I had this complete meltdown, unlike I've ever had before in my life, where my friends had to physically pick me up outside of the front of this pool party, this house where this pool party was, where this guy just completely ignored me. And I was devastated. And I was like, wow, I feel like a worthless piece of shit, as I have just exposed my soul to this person. But in order for me to go through that event, I then became independent. I learned to love myself. And that's how I got with Abe.
Yeah.
So if somebody would have stopped me and said, Miguel, don't text that boy, just let it be.
Yeah.
I would have continued that cycle.
Oh, yeah.
So that to me is one of my canon events that made me become the person where I learned to love myself, so I then could be loved.
It was finally enough for you.
Right. I'd finally reached my end point.
Oh, man. Okay, so I think y'all need to do the TikTok filter and just see what it says, just for funsies. I did the TikTok filter without even knowing what it was. Like, in my head, I was like, canon, like just big moment. I didn't know quite. We've defined it now quite well. But when I did it, and I didn't even post it, I just went, that's weird. They flip through what it might be above your head on the TikTok, and they flip through, and it landed on, you got a roommate.
Oh.
And I was like, Miguel, oh, cute. And then I went about my day. But now it's like even crazier that I think maybe it was Miguel. But the more we talked about it just now, which is why I was gazing off into the distance and I'm not listening to you, I'm so sorry, earlier, I just secondarily thought it wasn't Miguel, it was my mom. I think. I don't know.
Could be both.
But that was a nearly 10-year canon event.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, I mean, it did start me down a path of learning the truth about my relationship with my mom. It just took a very long time to get
That's
there.
true. So if to sum it up, if you didn't go through having well, let me take that back. Your mom was always going to move down and move in with you to help Maya. But I think it was when we moved to Tampa was when it could have been a natural, like, hey, I'm going to be living with my husband and my daughter, and then you're going to live close, but you can't live with us. But you made that decision. So if you would have gone back in time and said, hey, bitch, don't do it, don't let her move in, you wouldn't have gone down this path of learning who you are and what does Holly like? Who is Holly outside of who she thinks her mom thinks she should be?
Yeah.
You wouldn't be that person. So
that was the kicker off of that thing. Other things also had to happen for me to get to the point where I had enough. So I guess it just takes me a really long time to like do things. I don't know. But and some other, I would say, canon events did have to happen that were just so tragic. And I'm like, why, God? Why? But then I also am of the belief that, you know, we choose what we do when we come down here. Like, we've signed up for this. We've signed up to have the parents that we have, to learn whatever we're supposed to learn. We've signed up for the traumatic life events so that we can, you know, go through them as an infinite being, having a human experience to see what that's like. Even though I know, you know, that may be a controversial thing to say, obviously. And I would never say anybody deserves abuse or anything like that, obviously. But in the spiritual sense, I've gone through some traumatic things, and I think those experiences were for me in some type of way. And I learned from them, or I gained knowledge of the world from them, or whatever. And ultimately I did start therapy and start learning who I am and the truth. And I'm such a truth seeker now, more than I ever have been before. So I love that about myself. Sometimes it sucks though, because other people aren't. Other people are just bumping along like ducks in a little pond, just content to like go about their life and not ask deeper questions or try to figure out more. And that's it for them. And I'm like, I can't make you know things. I just wish I could make you know what I know. Like, just make you understand it in the way that I can understand it. But that's not for me. And I'm just actually was having a conversation with my person about how, like, that's a lesson that I need to learn. I have a very open mind that, you know, has the capability of understanding very complex things. I'm not trying to sit here and say like, oh, I'm so smart. Look at me. I mean, like, I'm a deep thinker. And if I could have a wish, I would want to like touch someone's arm and be like, can you just see it from like understand like what I'm doing here? And they're just like, no. Because people do that. People are like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to change what I already think about the world. I like it the way I like it. And no amount of facts or your opinion or your knowledge, just no. And I have to be okay with that. So anyway, I say all that to say my mom moving in. And it's so funny that, Miguel, that you say like choose to live with her in Tampa. It wasn't a choice. Like, there was no choice. There was no option presented to me. I didn't know I had one, which is part of the reason why I needed to learn the relationship and how truly toxic it was at times between her and I, because I didn't even know I had a choice. I was just like, well, we have to do this.
And that's what made you go down that path. That's why it's like when you really start to dig deep into it, it's really fascinating. Like, I was just thinking, like, one of my other big canon events in my life was when we were working with Mandy, who we talked about, and we were hired for the job in Tampa in 2015.
I think about this often.
And she was not hired with us. And there was a moment where our agent at the time and then our boss, our new boss, they both were like, well, do you want us to tell Mandy? And I said, no, that is me, because I'm the one who made the promise. And I now have to be a man and go to this woman and look her in the eyes and say, I'm breaking a promise. We're not going to go together. And to me, that was one of those moments where it was like I had to look someone in the eyes, know that I was going to break not only their heart, but her entire family's heart for my benefit. And I was like, I can't just let someone else do this and then just see what happens. And so to me, that was like, if I would have just let them do it, there are some other things that I did that happened later on in my career that I would not have been able to get through because I did that. And if I would not have done that, I would have been like, well, I'll just let someone else handle it. I'll just let someone else handle it, where that made me learn how to make tough decisions and to stick with it and to what's the word? Face my decisions. If you make a decision, you got to fucking be a man and take whatever happens after that. Whatever the consequences, good or bad, you've got to take it. And that's sort of like our old bossman Will, the story we tell when he first got to Tampa. And at that point, I was just like not very happy with a lot of things happening behind the scenes. And he had been there for like a month or two, and he pulled us into his office and was just like, so like, we haven't had a chance to sort of download like what's happening, like what's going on with you all. And I basically was like, listen, if this thing doesn't happen, if this thing doesn't happen, this thing doesn't happen, y'all can just let me go. Because like, I'm tired of every time we get a new boss, something changes and then we have to change and no one listens to what we say. And that was the first time in my career that I actually spoke up for myself. And I didn't just go, everything's fine. I'm great. Everything's fine. I was like, no, it's not great. And I'm going to be honest. And I've never done that before. But if I would not have done that, it probably would not have led to making the decision to leave when we did.
Yeah, that was tough. But obviously, I mean, no matter where you're listening from,
right,
you have to know that that was a Canon event as well. A difficult things had to be the way they are.
So it's really interesting when you start to dig down into these big moments in your life that change the course of who you are. And if you think about it, and if you made another decision, where would your life be? And who would you be?
Yeah.
If you didn't go through that.
Different multiverse.
Yeah.
Yes, I think about that too, like the parallel different.
Every time I get
universes.
high, it's just it takes over my mind every single fucking
crisis.
time.
Right.
It's really bad, but I love that movie. So,
because I always think about like because every single person outside of my mom, when I made the decision to leave Savannah to go join Holly and Kramer in Panama City, because I was leaving a full-time job with benefits. I mean, was not getting paid at all.
No.
But everyone was like, well, you have benefits and it's full-time and you're going to a part-time job to move in with someone you've never met.
Yeah.
And like, I was 22, I was like 21, and I was like, I don't know, but this is what I got to do.
You can do those things much easier when you're younger, by the way.
Oh, 100%. But there were a lot of people though who were my age who were like,
oh yeah,
girl. And I was like, listen, I already don't have any money and am in debt. What else could happen?
Lots more debt.
It's not gonna get worse debt. It's just more debt. Like, what are you gonna do?
Like, I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel right now. So what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
And if I would have stayed in Savannah and not taken that risk, where the fuck would I be now?
I don't know. I think about that if I were to not have moved to Florida. Where would anybody be right now if none of us moved away from our comfort zone? Because like I don't know. I don't know. I probably would have gotten fired because I was headed that way anyway. Like we were working for Clear Channel at the time. Now iHeart, by the way. But it was like they were doing the great let go of 07, 08. And so as a matter of fact, I left on like December 7th, I think. And the next day they let go of all of my friends. Like they fired everybody else because our PD had already been let go and it was looking things were not looking good. And so I was like scrambling to get something. And then I did the thing and I left and I moved to Florida. And that day that I was driving down to Florida, then I get texts that were like, well, we just got fired. So I would have been fired from there, but then where would I have gone? I don't know. Probably somewhere else in Ohio or maybe somewhere else in the world, but like life would have not been this life.
I when they let go of my two co-hosts back in South Florida, right before it was my turn to go into the office, I already knew that both of them had been fired and it was my turn. I was like, you know what? There was like a small part of me where I was like peaceful. I was like, okay. I was like, this is normal. Everybody in radio usually gets let go at one point or the other. And this was my time. And when I went in there, that didn't happen. And so I had wondered what would I've done if I did get let go.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't be here in Charlotte. And then Charlotte is another Canon event where it was like, I'm going to move from South Florida to Charlotte. I've never done this before with my partner. All the things that I've gone through within this year, I would have never experienced, or the people that I've met, I would have never met in South Florida. And it's just so crazy to me. And I talk to this about my fiance, Oscar, all the time. I'm like, well, what if we went to Europe? Like, what would that life be like? What would life be like if we moved to the West Coast? What experiences? And I'm not sure if it's missing out or what is not going to happen or what can happen.
Which timeline are you going to choose?
Correct.
And you don't, and since like, if we want to continue with my like you choose your path, thing, then it's like there are obviously different variations on what you can and can't choose, but how does that impact everyone's life around you? And it's really, I lost another point that I had, but it's in that same vein. But it's like, does that timeline cross over, and is there some similarities that would happen to you no matter what, and you're just choosing a way different outcome? It's too complex. I guess. Well, I have to be hot too.
I know, right?
That's the blunt.
We should do one day. We should just, when you're in town, just take an edible, just do like a nighttime podcast.
Yes, nighttime podcast.
Yes, like
y'all. I
6
figure
o'clock.
out
Would
all
sound
the
so
answers.
stupid.
Oh my god!
I figure out all the answers when I am.
Girl, oh my god! Can you imagine?
We're talking for so long.
I would love it.
Oh my gosh, we'll have to do that one time. I remember I used to always say that my life split. There was one decision that was not made for me. It was made by someone else that set my life on a different course. Because I used to always say that, remember, I wanted to be an actor when I was growing up. I wanted to be an actor or a radio personality. And the reason why I never went the acting route, and I just remembered this as you were talking, they had this thing in Georgia called the Governor's Honors Program, where at Valdosta State University, it was almost like a mini college that you could do as a sophomore, or as an incoming sophomore, junior, or senior. And you auditioned for it in the spring, and then it was like a summer thing at Valdosta State University, and you had like different majors that you could do. Like I think one of my friends, Caitlin, did like creative writing or something like that, or
so what was the
math.
end goal of this program?
It was
Just
basically like
experience?
intensive training in whatever you wanted to do that I think maybe you got college credit for. Like
at Valdosta or anywhere?
No, it only happened at Valdosta State, but it was for all Georgia public high school students. But it was like an intensive audition process. Like if I remember correctly, I mean, there was like 3 different rounds that you had to get through, at least for the drama one. And I remember I made it through, I think, like the first round with this monologue I did. And then I made it through the second round where you had to do 2 monologues. And I always said that if I would have gotten into Governor's Honors, I would have been able to like learn where I needed help with acting, because I never took any like acting classes like that.
Right.
And I feel like my life would have gone in a different direction. But because I didn't get into it and I was so let down because other friends did, I was like, fuck that. I'm going to do radio because I know myself, and I can be myself better than I can be anyone else. And so I always wondered, if I did get into the Governor's Honor program, would I have continued down that path of doing acting and like going that route instead of really diving in? Because when I got rejected is when we started the high school radio station. And then when the radio station that I liked that came on the scene in Atlanta, and I just dove deep into that. And I just kind of was like, oh, well, I'll just do like some of the musicals and stuff for high school. But otherwise, I'm done with the acting part. So I always wondered where my life would have taken me if that would have happened.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be in radio if you weren't. Up until a certain point, though.
Yeah, because you were doing it, but obviously
I was already doing it. But like, what would have at some point Kramer and I would have split off. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I would have met Kramer regardless of whether I met you or not. But like,
you probably wouldn't have stayed as long as you did.
I don't think I could
in Panama City.
So I wouldn't have And then like this wouldn't exist, obviously.
Right.
So like Kramer and I eventually would have split off. And would I still be in radio? I don't know. Maybe like doing a midday show somewhere or something.
Right.
Or somewhere else. Who knows?
Interesting.
It's weird.
I wish there was like some way to like push or like get Doctor Strange to like open up a portal just so you can like see.
I just want to see it.
Yeah, I just want to see like where would I be?
No,
like,
you don't. Because think about the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. She could see. She could see
and
where
she
she
liked
was.
it too at one
And
point.
she would, like think about spoiler kind of a little bit.
I mean, it's one best. If a movie's won best picture, there are no spoiler alerts.
Come on,
right?
like see the damn movie. Like,
haven't
what are you
seen it.
waiting for? What are you waiting
You
for?
should see
I have seen it like thrice. Okay, so
Yes.
anyway, so like when she sees, because she's in this laundromat, whatever, but then she sees the actress where she's like has this incredible like once in a billion lifetimes moment when she's the actress, and she's like, it's like heartbreaking. You're like, I chose the laundry. Like this is what basically this is what we're talking about. This entire podcast is about Everything Everywhere All at Once, except you know she gets to utilize all those things. But like there's all these different universes. I mean, they'd have the hot dog fingers and everything with all that. But like she has all these different lifelines. Like she's a martial arts expert and she's all these different things. But wait, I'm coming to an interesting point. But she always has, for the most part, usually has the daughter, and she's just trying to figure out how to love her, or she needs to figure out how to love her. So maybe all these other timelines that we could potentially be on, there's still only one call to action for our soul.
One constant, maybe?
One call.
So it's like the characters in your life obviously are the same, but it's like maybe your call, Holly, is to raise Maya, and it's gonna look differently if you would have, like, if I would have made the decision not to go into radio, and so you would have had Maya, but like whatever that looked like. What if you had joined the Kane show, you know, back in the day?
I could have. If I wasn't pregnant, they might have hired me.
Right. But maybe you would have gotten pregnant later, and then I mean, so it's like, but it still would be the same if you're trying to make sure I don't raise a traumatized child.
Always. Yeah, always that. I'll try to do the best for her and give her the best tools I think that she can have. Like if that's what it is, you know.
Right.
And I think if you're a parent, that's always one of your obviously main goals if you're trying at all to do it. Is to make sure that you do your best you can for your kids, but also you know, if there's other life purposes. So maybe it's not one constant, but it's like one or two, maybe three. How many can you really have? But it's a constant that guides you through all the timelines. And no matter what the timeline is, it's to, and like I said, you come in knowing what you've got to learn from the cosmos, like knowing karmically what you need to do. And maybe it's to love yourself. Maybe it's to accept that you don't have control over everything and to just do your best and know your own truth or whatever. One of those deep lessons, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Or Maya turns into Jobu Tupaki and
that's what I'm afraid.
You.
I'm afraid a little bit of Jobu Nutaki. Well, that's in the, like, she was just looking through the universe for one of her mothers to fully accept who she was.
Yeah.
And I need to watch it again.
I know, it's so good.
Rocks. The rocks.
The everything bagel.
Yes. It's everything. It's nothing. But anyway, so yeah, I hope she doesn't turn into Jobu whatever. Jobu Nutaki.
Jobu Tupaki.
Jobu Tupaki. I mean, she might. I don't know. She gets pretty sassy sometimes.
She's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I was able to like do that, and then all of a sudden, like, I leaned into the life where I was like an actor or something in Hollywood, and it was like me in a big old house, I'd be like, I love y'all, girl, but
no, you would get out. Come on.
No, because
now.
Evelyn in the movie, she immediately, when she had a taste of that or saw it, obviously lived it, she came back to her regular self, and she told that to her husband.
Yes.
And he was so sad because all he did was love her. And she said, oh my God, it was beautiful. I loved it. I was so much happier. Mad.
She's like, I was so much happier without you. Miguel is still missing from the screen, by the way. I know you're just listening to the podcast, but he has left the screen.
Is he
Miguel has
thinking
left the
about it?
chat.
Did he just
No, he
come
went
back,
to go live in
bitch?
Hollywood.
Imagine telling that to Abe. Imagine telling
And
that to
Abe's
Abe,
just like, I'm just, and then Abe's at the end, like, I just wanted to do laundry with you.
right.
And you're
Oh.
like, bye, bitch.
I'll find you when I'm rich, bitch.
Oh my God, but you
No.
won't be the same.
That doesn't work, bitch. It doesn't work that way.
It's a different version of Abe then. Oh, and by the way, and the two psychics have told me this now, that I was meant to have a girl and a boy. And I'm like, I was apparently meant to have a son somewhere, or like some male entity that whatever, and I don't. And I'm like, did I stop someone else's timeline from happening by not letting that happen? But like, because it's not like I don't want to get into all like miscarriages and abortion and all that. Like, we're not getting into that.
Right.
But like, I never was pregnant with a boy, and I don't plan on ever becoming pregnant with a boy. You know what I mean? So like, but two psychics separately, individually, 10 years apart in my life said that they felt a girl and a boy energy. And I'm like, what happens to that? Or if that's just frou-frou nonsense.
I mean, the possibility is still there, technically. You're not done yet.
I mean, all the eggs ain't dried up yet, but things are in place that are supposed to be preventative.
Oh.
So, unless there is an epic fail on that thing, let's hope that does not happen.
Did I ever tell you I did tell you guys this. I got so high one time and I was showering with Oscar, and one time he shook me and I went to the side and I immediately saw myself on a cruise ship. I heard the ding of the cruise ship go off, and then I came back and I was in the shower. I've told Oscar this, like I told him obviously right when it happened, and I told you guys this. I literally saw myself.
I don't remember this.
I do not
told
recall. No, you did not.
I was one of those Delta 8 edibles, and we were in the
I
shower.
don't trust these Delta 8s, by the way. This is some fake, like someone putting it together in their backyard nonsense. This is not licensed nor structured. Go ahead.
I will put my Karen hat on and say, yes, those motherfuckers work.
Yeah, but
They should not be over the counter.
I was about to say, I don't know what all is in them. They might not be very regulated.
It's legal, girl. So
I understand, but you dance with the devil. Anyway, you did not tell this story about you going on a cruise ship and then being in a shower.
It was so weird. Like, I saw it visually, and I'm not fucking crazy. Like, well, I'm not. So I visually saw myself, like he shook me, just like joking around. I went to the side and I was on a cruise ship. And I heard the bell, and then I came back, and I was like, what the fuck? It was so weird.
Why were you in the shower?
Why were we in the shower? I mean, we were showering together. Like, that was real.
So
that was real life. Yeah.
So he shook you in the shower.
Yes.
So you went to the cruise ship back into the shower.
I thought there was like a third location, and I was like, started in the living room. We went to the cruise ship, and we entered the shower. What the fuck?
We were just showering.
Oh, so you really were everywhere, everything
all at once.
inside.
I jumped.
Wow.
It's real.
Well, there you go.
Damn.
We should put the disclaimer on this one. If it's legal where you live, take a substance before you listen to this podcast.
And then tell us what you think.
Yeah.
It's a trippy one. I liked it. More of these.
Ooh,
oh my gosh. All right. Give a shout out to Lou, Melody, Jason, Carmen, my mama.
Hi, Mom.
Everybody stepped in. Shout out to Jason, who said I left a full-time job in Indiana and moved to Tampa to a part-time job at Publix. So he did one of those Canon events as well. All right. Producer Calvin, what is all of your information people can find you on social media?
I'm on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram at Kelvin Live.
Holly O'Connor.
Radio Holly, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram.
And mine is at Miguel Fuller. You can find me everywhere on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and on Be Real. We will see you all on Friday. Bye.
Miguel and Holly Uncensored.